Hello friends, hope everybody's doing well, and welcome to part 2 of the Ariens snowblower project that we're working on here. Okay, so if you watched the part 1, what I did, the first thing I did is I checked the oil, had plenty of oil in it. The oil looks good, but we're going to change it anyway. And also, I took this cover off and we got the choke working, and the throttle spring was sticking a little bit, so I addressed that, which made no difference. But I primed it, we started it, it starts up. Then I took the carburetor off and took it apart, and the needle and seat, the seat is shot. It's really swollen, and plus the O-ring that holds the bowl on it was all swollen. So, I mean, to go buy a carburetor kit and you're not even sure the carburetor's going to work right. The kit, last time I bought one was like 18 bucks. And came with a lot of stuff that you really don't need. But it does come with the bowl O-ring gasket, the seat, the needle, a couple other things, and whatever. So, I figured I'd give HIP a try. And I ordered up a carburetor for it, and I think it's like 16 or 17 bucks for the carburetor, and it comes with the fuel line. Comes with 2 fuel filters and the gasket you're going to need to mount the carburetor mounting gasket. It also comes with a primer bulb, so that's pretty cool too. So anyway, I put that on order. So we can't do anything with this carburetor. And I'll leave a link to part 1. I'll leave it in the comments. And maybe I'll put it in the descriptions also. So you might want to check out part 1. Okay, so today, I want to continue. Since the weather's going to be pretty decent today. It's going to be in the 60s again. We broke a record yesterday. I think it went up to like 63. And what I want to do is I want to take this starter cover off, the shroud. Make sure everything is clean in there, for one thing, and for another thing, the fuel line runs in there. So I already bought the fuel line. We're going to be putting a brand new fuel line in it, and I already first thing in the morning here, I already managed to break the 2 screws off in here that hold this on, but I'll address that later. I'll tie it on if I have to. I've done that before, and it held pretty good. So I'm really not worried about that. So another thing I checked, in part 1 you saw the recoiler assembly here. Needed a new rope in it. Well, this thing, the spring is broken there. Okay, so that's no good. So after about an hour of searching in the storage, look what I found. Found the whole cover, everything's there. The glove handle, like I was telling you in part 1, that's there. I know I have a couple of bolts to hold the starter button on. I know I do. I just don't know where. I looked in a few containers already. I already wasted a lot of time just looking for parts today, but fortunately, I was able to find this whole thing here. So, I guess for now, after we start putting it back together again, I'm just going to drill a hole in the cover here, because I still have that other good cover, and then I'll just run the tie strap around and just tie this thing back on there, or whatever I decide to do. Okay, so today I'm going to start by pulling off the gas tank. We're going to tip this thing up on its nose to work on it. It's much easier to work on that way. And let me get set up and we'll get started. Okay, so I just stuck this cover back on. I didn't tighten the bolts or anything, so I don't have to take this cover back off because I don't want to lose anything, and everything's mumbo jumbo in this place as it is, trying to find parts. It's like unbelievable, Alright, so I'm going to begin. I'm going to take this cover off because you already saw how that's done in part 1, and then we'll continue with the rest. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is take off the throttle. I already loosened the bolts. So I'm using a 1/4 inch socket to get these out, and hopefully I don't drop them. Okay, there's one, probably right in your way too. And then there's another one under here. And now once again, you're going to want to make sure if the governor linkage falls off here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes to choose from. So just for my reference, it goes into the second hole down from the top. I should have a little magnet out here, actually. Or you could just tie strap it over here, which that's what I might do. So it's just out of the way here. I'm going to stick the screws back in here. So we don't lose them. It's almost I don't know, it's supposed to be warm out, but my hands are a little cold today. I'm just going to tie strap that over to the side and get it out of the way. You see it's out of the way. I'd rather do that than take it off, I guess. Oh. All right. Can you see the top here? Yeah. Okay, so there's two bolts up on top here holding the shroud on so far, and you're going to be using a 1/2 inch socket on that, which of course I forgot to bring it. It's set up. I just left it over here. I drilled 2 holes in the top already of the shroud, the cover here, because I'm going to just wire tie the starter button assembly back on. I know I have those bolts, which probably came off of the housing that we're going to be using the recoiler off of. Where they are, I don't know. I tried to look for them. I wasted about a half hour because I have a bunch of containers with all kinds of different screws and bolts and nuts, and I mean, this place is just unorganized. It's ridiculous here. All right, so we got these 2 out. All right. Throw them in. I threw the bolts in the container. All right, I'm gonna have to reposition everything right now because there's 2 bolts on the bottom here we got to take out of the cover. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take the fuel line and this menagerie apart here. Apart. That was a close one. I almost elbowed the camera. Don't worry, it's still early yet. There's time to knock the camera over. Oh, it's wet. Oh. Just trying to get the clamp off the hose here. Okay, that's that. See if I can grab this clamp here with the needle nose. Yeah, I got it. I think you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, sort of, I guess. Well, that part's done anyway. Alright, so we just have the hose here. I took the clamps off because I don't know if this slides in and out or you can clip it in. I forget. It's been a long time since I had one of these apart. Alright, so I put the socket on here already, and it's 7/16 bolts. There's one on this side and there's one on the other side. Now, as far as passing this cover out of here, you might have to, I don't know, I really don't remember, but I remember it was a tight fit to take the cover off. So I'll go ahead and take off the bolt on the other side. It goes in the same way. Of course I can't. Let me see if I can bend this. Let me bring you around here a minute. Okay. There's a bracket here with the ground wire and so forth here, but I can't get to this bolt here that we have to take out. So I'm going to see if I could just bend this down a little bit without causing any damage, so I can get the socket on here. And I think that should be enough. We should be able to get the socket on here now. Yeah, we got it. Oh, no. I'll be right back to you. I'm going to have to spray that and try to use the 3/8 drive ratchet to get that off. To unbolt that. Hopefully the bolt won't break. Alright, I was able to, because the recoiler's off on top here, which you really can't see. Anyway, I was able to spray some WD through here so it would hit the bolt, but it didn't matter. I just used the 3/8 drive with a socket and it just busted right loose without breaking, so that's pretty good. So we got that off. Got that bolt out. So it's all unbolted. Now as far as passing it through everything here, I don't know. I'm going to reposition the camera. I'll be right back. Okay, now we can see what's going to be in the way, because I'm sure something's going to be in the way here. And then we have to make sure we hook up when we put the new old recoiler on. Do we hook up this other ground wire? Okay, so I'm going to have to, whatever you do, do not bend the shroud, because it's enough of a problem trying to get these things on. Anyway, the shifter rod right here, there's a cotter pin. I'm going to take it off, pull this out, and try to swing it, move it out of the way somehow. And then I'll be right back to you. You know what? Let me show you. Because that's what the videos are all about. Let me just show you. This is the shifter rod here. Okay? And then there's a cotter pin here. I'll take the cotter pin out. Pull this and see if we can get it out of the way enough to pull the cover off. I'll be right back to you. There's no sense in you watching me pull a cotter pin. Okay, so now I hope we could just pull this shroud out without any more problems. So I took this out. We just lift this up and just slide this out. And don't forget, you still have a, let me see, it's disconnected. The primer, bulb, hose that I just want to make sure I know how this goes down there. Okay. Alright. So I could just pull this whole thing out here. Okay, so wow, I didn't realize the flywheel's in the way here. I think you can more or less just fish this thing through. Because I hate to have to pull a flywheel off. Yeah, I can kind of see in there what's going on. Let me reposition the camera. I mean, sticking the hose back in is not going to be too easy. I already know that. It's, you know, another one of Tecumseh's wonderful ideas here. Okay, it looks like I'm going to have to pull a flywheel off to do this. Because this hose goes under the flywheel here. Okay, and it clips into a bracket. And it doesn't even pull out too easy. So, rather than going really crazy with this, I'm just going to pull the flywheel off and fish the new line in and put it back together. Be back soon. Okay, so I took the nut off and I pulled the cup off, and now I just screwed this nut on here flush. I'm going to try to give it a few whacks with the hammer here and see if I can jar this thing loose. Now, one thing you have to be careful of, I mean, I like to do it too, like wedge something in here, like the pry bar, and try to pry up on it while you're hitting. Be very careful of this, because this is where the bottom bolt, there's one on this side and a bracket on the other side like this. Be careful not to bend this, because then you'll have a heck of a time putting the bolt back in, the bolts back in. How do I know? I bent them. That's how I know. Okay, so I sprayed the heck out of this with WD, hoping that some of the WD works its way down in there. I found a place to pry this. It's not the safest place in the world, but like I said, we don't want to bend those brackets, so I'm just going lightly onto the muffler here. Just don't go too crazy, because you don't want to cause any more. Okay, so she popped, so that's good. And then once you pull the flywheel off, there's a key in there. Make sure you don't lose that key. So okay, so I'm just, you know what I'm gonna do? Since I popped that loose, I'll come back to you when we start fishing the fuel line in. Okay, so here's where the hose runs. Right here. There's a tab here, and there's a tab over here. And usually, if you're lucky, you could break these two bolts loose that hold this whole plate on there. We're not that lucky with this, and I don't feel like breaking any bolts off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pry this up a little bit on this side, and a little bit over here, and yeah, here, I'll just pry it up a little bit so you just get the hose in and out, and then I'll push this back down here. because like I said, we don't want to break any bolts, do we? Nah, I didn't think so. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to put you where I would like to put you so you can see what I'm doing, but I showed you what I'm going to do. Oh my God. Back of my legs, I don't know why, I'm sore. I haven't really done much. Okay, so we lifted this up a little bit. I hate prying on these things. I really do. You know? Just move this plate a little bit out of kilter, and then you go crazy trying to put the shroud bolts back in. Let's lift that a little bit. All we're doing is just lifting it enough so we can weasel the hose back in. Okay, so we got the old hose out. Look at this. Look at what a bad idea it is having this hose run back there like that. I don't know what the hell they were thinking of. Look at this. I'm sure you can see it on camera. It's ridiculous. It almost has a hole in it. So, alright, let me get the new hose. I'm done complaining. Let me, thank you, Tecumseh. Let me get the new hose and we'll fish that in and get on with this thing and get it done already. Okay, let's fish the hose in. So I'm just going to lift this up a bit. A lot of times you get the hose and it came off the roll and it's bent. It's a lot better when the hose is straight, I'll tell you that for sure. What the heck is in here? Oh, it's the wire. You gotta be careful of the wire for the stator, because this has a stator in it, because it has a headlight. So you want to be sure not to. Is that how that? Yeah, that's how that went. Yeah, wait for that. It's already, the wire for the stator is already digging into this cover here. I mean, this is like the stupidest crap I ever saw here. I don't know what the heck they were thinking when they designed this. I'm sorry you really can't see what I'm doing here. I am having a little trouble on this with this see if I could tuck this thing down into the where it goes here. Alright, there it is. Just came away from that. Always make sure you leave extra sticking out over here, because you could always pull it back through over here, or just cut a piece off to put it back on the carburetor is what I'm talking about. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing. It's like hardly you could see, but I'll show you. Okay, so I don't know how you would do it without pulling the flywheel out. Guys try to do it, and I guess they succeed doing it, but I don't even bother trying to do it that way. I just take the flywheel off. Alright, so I lifted this tab here, fished the hose through here. Then there's another bracket here, fish that through there. Then there's another one over here, and I think this is the piece over here that's indented. who's responsible for gouging the hose. But whatever. Okay, and now we came out to where the carburetor, like the bolts are just loose for the carburetor, but I gave us some extra wire here. I should have taken this throttle thing off. It's nothing but in the way for you to see. I pulled some extra out, because you could always pull it from the other end to take up the slack, or like I said, you could cut the hose here. Okay, I'm getting more aggravated trying to film this to show you than doing this. You get what I mean. Just pull extra out. Okay, so I'll get right back to you. If I can shut. Okay, so now is a good time. You want to clean the contacts on the coil, and I already cleaned the contacts on the flywheel. So now's a good time to do it. I already did it. And what I'm using here is one of my dullest sanding discs, because you don't want to go too crazy here with this. So what I did is I just spruced it up a little bit here. You can use sandpaper too. This centerpiece is pretty clean. This is all pretty clean. I mean, it ran, but you like to just, clean everything up as you go along. There's no mouse nests in here. That was my main concern about taking this cover off. But like I said, you have to take the cover off to put this fuel line in. All right. What are we gonna do now? Let me decide what we're doing now. Okay, I'm just gonna set the flywheel back in and put the nut and that other starter assembly piece, the cup, which is right here. You put the flywheel on, you put this cup in, and then there's a tab that sticks out here. And just make sure you have it where it belongs. You could put it in a couple of different spots, but if you don't have it in the right spot, then what you're going to do is you're going to mash this, and then you have other problems that you don't need. Okay, so it was the flywheel. I set that on there. The keyway stayed in place. I was able to just drop this down in here, and then I put the cup on here. Then it was a lock washer, and then I put the nut on there. I just nugged it up with the air gun. So we're done with that part. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover back on. You saw how I took it off. We'll stick that back on there now. Okay, I wasn't really crazy about having to do it this way, and we are using the older cover because it says 8 horsepower on here, and it also has the engine ID and everything on cover, on this cover, because I don't know if the other cover may have been off of 5 horse. I'm not really sure, so I'm figuring to use this. So what I did was I drilled out 2 holes here, 15/64, I believe I drilled, so the tie would fit through here, and then there's a hole here. I put the tie up through the hole, and then over here there won't be any interference when I put the cover on, so it's on the inside of the cover here. So I have to carefully put this cover on and make sure that the ties are, not in the way of anything. Like you have a bolt hole right here, you got to be careful of. So I'm going to leave it to the right of the bolt hole, and let me place this thing on there. Okay, so I think I showed you the most important thing of everything on this video here with this. Okay, so the hose comes out here like you saw, and I cut it as short as I could because you got to watch that this the outlet here, comes down to about here, and then this part here, where you stick the hose on there, goes to about here. So I went as close as I could to the tank without interfering and getting the hose on there right, and I did that. And then I put the recoiler on that I found that I had, luckily. So I put that on. That's only 4 nuts that hold that on. And then you have this one wire here, because this one has a headlight on it. So this is the grounds for the headlight here. So I put that on. I put the throttle, I bolted the throttle back on here. We could actually connect the spark plug wire. Okay, that's on. What else? Yeah, I ran these wire ties here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the button on there and see how tight we can make that. I didn't like to do it that way, but I didn't have skinny enough bolts to even drill anything out and do anything with that. I'm trying not to forget to show you anything here. And then I put the shifter rod back in and put the cotter pin back in on that. And let me just tie that starter button in, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm not too crazy about doing the tie strap thing, but it's pretty tight. I don't know, maybe I could find some self tappers that are that'll fit in. These holes are really small, but I'm not gonna go crazy with this. I think this will be fine. We'll see how it is after I get the carburetor, and we'll run it. And I hope somebody got something out of this. I tried to do the best I can to record the most important parts of it. We didn't get to do the, I want to inspect the belt, the drive belt, and also the auger belt. We didn't get to that point, but we are waiting on the carburetor, and hopefully the weather will stay. You know, I'll get some nice days to where I can work on this again. I put the order in to help with the carburetor. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in the beginning of this video. So we'll see how that product works out. You know, I'll do the review for them. I've been keeping in touch with them, you know, so we'll see what happens with that. And thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the next one, and stay safe.